Hey everyone, this is Johnny, and a lot of you have asked, should I buy a house? Are you going to buy a house, Johnny? And is it a good investment? And I didn't want to just kind of ramble and give my opinion on it. I wanted to really dive in deep with the numbers and the facts and the pros and the cons of the two. So I actually took this whole morning and I created this slideshow so I can really get to the point. I really took the time to do the research and I read both sides of it. And I've been thinking about this topic for a number of years now, literally maybe for the last 10 years, I've been really debating and thinking about this. So this is, should you buy a house? Is it a good investment? And what am I personally going to do? So you can follow my blog at johnnyfe.com. If you don't know who I am, I've been kind of on this whirlwind journey this last maybe 8 or 9 years where I had a great corporate job and I lived in Southern California and I was on track to buying my first house. And by now, if I stayed on that track, I probably would have been in the house for about 10 years. And who knows, I probably would have been on my second house by now. Having a normal corporate job, I was making about $50,000 a year, working for a big American corporation, just kind of normal life. And instead, I kind of went on my own. I moved to Thailand for a while and I started my own business about 4 years ago. And this is kind of where I am now, where I'm back thinking maybe I should buy a house again because a lot of people are talking about it. I've been saving up. And it's kind of always on my mind as well as your mind because people keep asking me. So let's dive straight in and take a look at the numbers and the facts and the pros and cons. All right. So first off, every single person should save up enough money to be able to buy a house, whether that's saving up $30,000 or $50,000 or even $100,000 so you can put down a down payment. That way you have the option to be able to buy a house or not. The problem with not even having that money in the bank is there's no reason for you even to be thinking about if you should or shouldn't be buying a house if that's not even an option. By having that option, then you can come back to these slides and decide, okay, now that I have the money, is this going to be the best investment or should I invest my money in something else? But the problem with not saving up for a house and not having that be the dream goal is because it makes us think, okay, well, our lives are pretty good right now, so let's not work as hard. Let's not save money. Let's spend it on a new gadget or new car or new clothes or on a vacation. And then we don't really have that big ultimate goal. So luckily for me, the only reason why I've been able to save up so much money is I thought I wanted to buy a house. So I've been just scrolling away my winter nuts and, instead of like just blowing it on a nicer apartments or nicer, buying nicer clothes or buying cars, I really thought I wanted to buy a house. So I saved up enough money now where I can just buy one. And actually, I first saved up $100,000 to be able to put down a down payment on like my dream house and then pay it off with a mortgage. But then I thought, you know what? Now that I'm at this point, I don't really want to spend that. Let me save up enough so I can buy a house in cash. And I've now saved up $500,000. And I was like, okay, now I can buy a house in cash. Should I do it? And that's when I decided maybe it's not the best idea. So I've always heard buying a home is the biggest investment you'll ever make. And I've also, heard that buying a house is the best investment you ever make. But now that I look to see who's been telling me that, I've kind of thought differently. So first off, let's break it down. Is it the biggest? For most people, yes. It's going to be a lot bigger than your car purchase or, anything else. But the biggest purchase you make shouldn't be your house. It should be something that brings you money, whether it's a business or some kind of investment or even real estate that produces income. So that being said, buying a house that you're going to live in is not an investment. It's actually a liability. And a lot of people don't realize that, but we're going to break that down. All right. But why do we hear this all the time? Why do we hear this quote? Well, I looked it up. And it's always going to be real estate agents that are telling you that or people that already own a home. And here's the reason why it's so hard to find unbiased truth is because real estate agents are obviously going to be biased because that is their job. And homeowners, they've gone through this process already. And it's not that they've gone through and they're like, oh, that was the best decision ever made. It's now that they are committed and they don't want to think back and think, oh, I made a huge mistake. Let me, tell the whole world now that I'm this huge idiot that just, that bought into this. It's that they are now committed. So either they really genuinely believe it is a great investment because they're enjoying it, or they got through and they're like, okay, I can, I see my home value going up. But here's a problem is you don't hear from the other side of the people that regret it. And even if they do regret it, they kind of make excuses to themselves on why it was still a good idea. And I know this for a fact because I have 2 family members. I think the only 2 that bought a house, 2 out of 2, all right, that they both should regret buying a house, but when I talk to them, they don't. And here's the thing is one of them, they bought a house that's too big for their needs. So he used to be one of the wealthiest guys I knew because he had the most spending cash. He makes over $100,000 a year. And now because he has a house, he can't even just go on a vacation. He has to plan for it a year in advance because first off, he needs someone to watch the house. It's going to sit empty. He's still paying mortgage and utilities on it. He's still paying maintenance, insurance, property tax, all these different things. And it's unfortunately, it's not an investment. He could have used that money for something completely different. And my other cousin, now he's in this house that's a beautiful house, but it's also going to be this fixed place where he now has to work an hour away because his job changed location. And instead of being able to move close to it, like I talked about in my last video, why minimalists don't commute, he now has a 2-hour drive every day, 1 hour there and 1 hour back, and he's stuck. So here is the kind of the truth for homes, right? Just like everything in life, there are 2 sides. I'm sure if you ask both of these people, they have had great benefits. They're like, I like the stability of having a house, or I love the feeling of having a house, or whatever it is. There's always going to be good sides as well. And so there's a third person, my sister actually. She's always had great success buying houses. I mean, she's always made a profit from buying her house. But there are so many people that I know that don't talk about it publicly that lost money buying a house, or they're stuck in a mortgage that that they're trying to pay off, and they didn't hit a home run. They didn't have this crazy appreciation, and they don't talk about it because people only talk about their wins, not their losses. Just like gamblers. I mean, I literally just met a guy the other day that went out and bought a bunch of new clothes, and he had all these shopping bags, and I asked him, I'm like, oh, are you celebrating something? He said, yeah, I just made a ton of money at work. And I said, what do you do? And he said, oh, I'm a sports bettor. And he's like, I made a killing this morning. And I asked him a very simple question that I don't think most people ask him. I said, are you up or down? And he said, I'm down. And I'm like, what the heck are you celebrating? And this is the problem is for every winner, there's going to be a loser. And with the housing market, it's the same thing. So you hear about all these benefits of owning a house. And I've looked it up. I read a ton of articles, for the last 10 years while trying to buy a house. But then I looked at them all again while putting together these slides. And I wrote down in 2 columns all the pros and cons. But then I started crossing out the pros that weren't actually real. And I'm going to explain step by step why some of these are not actually what they turn out to be. All right, first, ownership pride is real. I mean, you'll feel, so grateful and proud that you bought a house. That's the American dream. But the reason I crossed it out is that's ego. That's not a real, thing. This just makes us feel good, makes our family feel good. It makes us think that, we've achieved this great success. And to some point, I guess it is, you have enough money to be able to put down a down payment or buy something. But with that same amount of money, if you invested in something else, you can probably make a lot more money. It's not like the $100,000 you saved up is suddenly gone. Now it's just suddenly in something else that could probably make you a lot more money. So that we should be proud of, not necessarily just owning a house that's a liability. All right, so with property taxes, yeah, you are saving money on the interest that you're paying, but think about it. you're saving 30 to 40% in taxes on paying 100% of interest that you shouldn't be paying in the first place. That's like you giving me $100 a month for me to give you back $30 or $40 a month in savings at the end of the year. These are terms that people don't really fully understand, and that people that have interests in collecting interest from you, brokers, agents, people wanting you to buy bigger houses, lending companies, all these people want you to think that you are saving money, but if you really think about it, you are spending more. So back to the pros. Appreciation. This is real. My parents bought a house for $30,000 30 years ago, and now it's worth $800,000. So when I grew up hearing that, I thought, wow, this is the best investment you can ever make. But then I sat down and actually did the math. I said, okay, what was your, what was your interest rate? How much have you paid in interest in the last 30 years? Especially the fact that they've now had to refinance twice. How much interest have you paid? What have you paid in property taxes? What have you paid in repairs and maintenance? What have you paid in total to own this house? And then when you factor in inflation on what that money, is basically was worth back then and what it's worth now, they got lucky. They bought a house in San Francisco and their house was worth so much more. But in reality, it just basically went up with inflation, and it was just a great forced savings account, which was awesome for them. But here's the problem is, if it wasn't awesome for them, if they didn't buy it in San Francisco, maybe they bought it in another state or another city that didn't have this big boom, they probably would have actually lost money. And I think a lot of people don't realize that is they see that the price of a house go up. They're like, oh, well, obviously we made money from it. Everybody's making money from it. But there are plenty of places in the world where it doesn't increase that much. It's pretty flat or grows just with inflation. And you just end up losing money on things like property tax. And I know this for a fact because I've been paying my parents property tax for the last 2 years just because I could, and I wanted to give them this early Christmas gift. So I know how much it is, and it's a lot of money. So why is it good to own a house then? The only real two things is forced savings, where it forces you to create a savings account. Because honestly, it would have probably been better if my parents, lived below their means, saved that money, put it into the stock market, or put it into index funds, or into something else, into a business or anything else, and they probably would have made a lot more money than just what they have on paper in their house. Because it's not like they have the money in their bank. They're still living in the house, and if they go to sell it, who knows what might happen. It might take forever to sell. They might have to spend $20,000 to update and remodel the house before they can even sell it. They have to pay 3 to 6% in fees to even sell the house. They have all these other crazy things. If they had that money in an index fund for 30 years, they would have had a lot more money. So that's the thing is, this is one way to do it. But if you really, really want to take control of your own financial independence, this is probably not the best way. But the reason why people continue to buy houses, continue to live in homes, is because it gives you stability and predictability. You know that you're going to be living there for the next 10, 20, 30 years. You know what your monthly mortgage is. You know that this is your life. And the problem with that is you don't get the flexibility of being able to move if you need to. So back to my cousin who bought a house, I asked him, I said, why, now that you're commuting an hour away and your wife is actually commuting an hour away too, why don't you just sell your house and move there? And you'll both have a 5 or 10 minute drive instead of you both having an hour drive every day, which is insane to me because neither of you are now living near your jobs. And the problem is they just bought their house and they would lose a lot of money and a lot of time to sell it and have to find a new place. But to be honest, part of it, I think, is ownership pride. I think they don't want to tell everyone, hey, we screwed up. We have to buy, we have to move now. We just spent all this money decorating it. We are now comfortable living above our means in this beautifully decorated house with, expensive furniture, in this great neighborhood. And now I don't want to move. So flexibility is a huge key. And I know those with family, and this is something that they would probably argue, that they have kids and, you know, they don't want to move their kids around, and, you know, they want their kids to grow up in the same house like they did, you know, as you know, when they grew up. But I guarantee you, by having an extra 2 hours a day to spend with your children, you're going to give them a lot more stability and predictability than having them grow up in a house while you're gone all the time, commuting or at work. So these are the pros and cons of home ownership. And I want to give you guys some alternatives, but I'll make that in actually another video because this is getting too long. So watch the next video. If you guys have any questions about these pros and cons lists or anything like that, leave a comment below and let me know what you think, because I'm very, very curious about what everyone's mindset is and what you guys really want from you know, from these personal finance videos, this kind of minimalistic mindset videos, and what you are personally doing in your life. What are your goals? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.